All right, today we're diving into something that has been pretty misunderstood and twisted throughout the centuries, and that is Luciferianism. I'm not talking about the pop culture stuff. I'm talking about the actual philosophy of what it means and where it comes from and why it continues to survive even after being buried for centuries in fear and ignorance. So, Luciferianism at its core is actually about responsibility, awareness, and transformation. There's no worship involved, actually. You either become conscious of who you are and the world you live in, or you stay unaware. And if you're like watching this video, chances are you're somebody who is maybe starting to wake up. That's wishful thinking, so I guess we'll see. All right, let's start with the name. So Lucifer comes from Latin, lux meaning light, and fer meaning to bring, which means it's the light bringer, not the prince of darkness, and not the horned devil, but the bringer of light, actually. And that's the original title before centuries of theological politics flipped the narrative. Okay, so now in Christian mythology, Lucifer falls from heaven for rebelling. But if you look at the story closer, he actually falls for saying no and for questioning the hierarchy and refusing to blindly follow orders. And I wouldn't say that's evil. I would say that's consciousness, that's will. That's the exact moment that he stops being a servant and starts being a symbol. And that symbol of a defiant, aware, and self-determined being shows up all over in history, actually. And Christianity isn't the first place that we see it. In Greek mythology, he was known as Prometheus, and he was the one that steals the fire from the gods and gives it to humanity. And for that, he was punished and tortured as well. And what did he really do? You know, he gave humanity the ability to think, to build, to imagine. He gave them the tools to stop being animals. So that means that he was the first Luciferian figure. And even in Bible, in the Genesis, the serpent tells Eve that if she eats the fruit, her eyes will open, and that's exactly what happens. She becomes aware, and God punishes her and Adam, not for lying, not for hurting people or killing somebody, but for literally acquiring knowledge. So that was the original sin. It was awareness, you know? And I can't believe people actually like look at that story and it makes sense to them, you know? It's kind of wild to me. Anyways, Gnostic texts take this further when looking at the God of Genesis, and the Gnostics actually call him Yaldabaoth, or more commonly known as the Demiurge, which is a lesser, ignorant being who claimed to be the only God. But above him, beyond him, is the monad, which is the true source of all creations. And the Gnostics believe that the Demiurge created the physical world to trap divine sparks, which is our souls, inside of physical bodies, inside illusion and worldly systems. And that sounds just like Lucifer, the serpent, and Christ in his secret teachings. And they were all seen as liberators, and not destroyers, but guides for humanity. Let's quickly talk about the Cathars, who I've mentioned in the previous video, who they've lived in the 12th and 13th century in southern France. And these Gnostics, they lived simple spiritual lives. They rejected the Catholic Church's authority, and they saw it as corrupt and controlling. They believed in personal spiritual philosophy, not driven through fear and guilt, but through inner transformation and peace. They were labeled heretics, of course, and the Pope launched a crusade that resulted in entire towns being slaughtered. And one legate was known for saying, "Kill them all, God will know his own." So that was the mentality that the early Christians had when they were dealing with other spiritual traditions. And that was the way that they interpreted killing their own kind, which were literally other Christians, because in the early Gnostic days, there was really no separation between Gnostics and Christians back then. It was kind of just seen as the same thing. And it was only later, after the Roman Empire had made Gnosticism, or no, I'm sorry, have made Christianity or Orthodox Christianity their religion, that's when they started to slaughter all the Gnostic groups, and not just the Gnostic groups, but also other spiritual beliefs in the area. So, I mean, that's what happens when you reject control and when you refuse to submit to the church, which is why Luciferian has always been an underground philosophy, kind of like Gnosticism. It's also a threat to the church, not because it's violent or destructive, but because it tells people that they don't need permission to evolve spiritually or get closer to God. And that God isn't above them, but rather is within them. So let's get into the actual principles of Luciferianism and kind of just cover what it actually represents. So let's start with responsibility. You are responsible for your life, your thoughts, your choices, and there is no fallback. There is no divine bailout, if you will. And that may sound a little cold, but if we're being honest, it's probably the most empowering thing you can actually hear, because it means that you can change everything once you stop waiting or depending on a higher power. Second is awareness. So real Luciferianism isn't about believing in anything. It's about seeing, it's about questioning everything, about being, questioning what you've been told, what you assume, what society expects from you. And it's not just rebelling for the sake of rebelling, but it's rebellion against things that don't add up or things that don't make sense, and they just want you to believe it blindly, because it's about truth and not comfort. Third is about inner transformation. So this is a personal alchemy. You have to face your darkness, not to destroy it, but to integrate it within yourself. You must look at your anger, your fear, your shame as raw materials, and then you refine them and then use them. You don't pretend that they're not there, because that's how people get manipulated, is through their own emotions and unconsciously being led by their own emotions. Fourth is embodiment. So Luciferianism isn't something you just think about. It's something that you live by. It's how you speak. It's how you hold yourself, how you move through the world. You don't just read philosophy and reflect it in your behavior. You don't posture. You don't perform. You just own it and be. That simply is what it represents. And last is independence. So it teaches you that you have to stop looking for someone to lead you. You have to stop outsourcing your mind and your morality and your own decisions. You have to stop trying to fit in general and lead yourself, even when it's lonely, especially when it's lonely. And this isn't about being edgy, guys. It's not about being the opposite of a Christian or being anti-religion or whatever. It's about the truth. And most people are just not ready for that, because real freedom means no excuses, no scapegoats, just you, your choices, and your consequences. But if you truly are ready to feel something shift and walk different and speak with more weight and stop wasting your energy trying to be understood by people living in fear, then this could be something that is worth pursuing beyond just this video, because this video is only the tip of the iceberg. So Luciferianism, when practiced honestly, it sharpens you. It's not into like someone that is hard or bitter, but into someone who's clear, someone grounded, someone who's not looking for approval anymore. And this video is just kind of there to give people a head start into it, or to kind of just reawaken people's interest in the concept, because unfortunately we live in a day and time where people associate Lucifer with Satan, and when you say to somebody that you're a Luciferian, they just think that you're saying you're a Satanist. And being a Luciferian and being a Satanist are literally two different things entirely, even though there is a little bit of overlap in some cases, but ultimately they are two very different philosophies. And that's something I kind of also wanted to make clear. If you guys want me to go deeper into Luciferianism and talk more about the specifics and how you can actually integrate it and stuff into your own life, leave a comment below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. And if you like this kind of content, I also do gaming and kind of other stuff. So if you guys like that, or you just like me, or you like the way I present these ideas, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.